Hi, it's Ian from the Postal Hub Podcast.
And Marek from Last Mile Experts.
And we are the Last Mile Prophets. This is the last word on the last mile. This video is created thanks to Modern Expo, one of the key players in the world's parcel locker market. Modern Expo's product portfolio includes innovative solutions with refrigeration and freezing cells, Bluetooth locks, and even personal parcel lockers. Marek, we're going to do something a little bit different in this episode. We're going to talk about one of your favourite topics. And, wow, I mean, it's not just you, Marek, who loves parcel lockers. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who have a passion for parcel lockers. Now, Australia might not be Lockerland, but there are a few parcel lockers out there. We'll start with this first video, which is, I should start by saying, this was taken on a Saturday morning when there were no customers in there. All right, but this is the 24-hour zone at the bottom of Australia Post headquarters in Melbourne. So I'll just talk everybody through it first of all. So as you come in through the door, you can see here there's a postal ATM where you can pay bills and stuff like that. There's a parcel drop thing where you can just lob your parcel after you've paid for the postage. You come past here and there's this thing, you look at this thing, what's this all about? Is Australia Post selling refrigerated envelopes? No, this is a vending machine, 24-hour vending machine selling express post envelopes, small padded bags and things like that. It's not a very new idea. This has been around for, this actual machine, I reckon, has been in there for over, more than 10 years. So it's not super new. But now, as we pan across, we see post office boxes, loads of post office boxes. It's a very popular form of delivery in Australia. It's secure and obviously you can access it 24 hours a day. You can see this is a pure ATM here, thing with a flashing green light on it. Now, Marek, I'll show another video in a moment with sort of looking at the other side of all of that. But already you can see there's some old ideas in there sitting alongside some newer ideas. I'll play the next video now, everybody, so we can just talk about it a little bit more. And because you'll see as we go around the corner, you can see here we've got regular parcel locks. Those are parcel lockers there with no screen, Marek. Whereas on the other side, we've got parcel lockers with a screen. So two different styles of parcel lockers. And then, I'm sorry about the camera work, everybody. It looks like I'd been out for a big night. I hadn't. I'm just a terrible camera operator. You can see again all those post office boxes. And then this ATM, which looks like it's sticking its tongue out and winking at you or something like that. Anyway, that's enough about that. Marek, this is a 24-hour accessible zone. So you have to go through a door. As I said, it's at the bottom of the Australia Post headquarters in Melbourne. It is a real mix of sort of customer interfaces, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, what struck me, first of all, I love this stuff. And I don't know if you remember the one that we saw in Austria, which I thought was actually, you're going to kill me for this, Ian, I thought it was a little bit cleverer. Probably because it was designed as a complete
This has been put together, I think, over a number of years. It's not that it's been put together as one project. Now, I think you're right. You can see the difference.
That one was integrated and the technology was from a similar period. Okay, if I were to choose highlights, lowlights, or what interested me, well, I've got to start, of course, with the vending machine. For me, even if it was old technology, I would get rid of it straight away because it's not efficient. You can achieve the same thing by basically giving someone, they buy a virtual code or a label or something that they put on their own envelope that fits in a certain type of slot. So I really don't get the vending machine unless it's because it was there, let's use it. And I found that a little bit archaic, but I like the concept of prepaid envelopes. I think the kit was expensive. And from my perspective, you could have achieved most of what you've got there from some very good software and just a parcel locker. You didn't need all of that. With the exception, of course, of the post boxes, which is a separate product.
Oh, and it's interesting that you've got, as you've said, now the vending machine is a bit of an older idea. Albeit, as I said, it's more than 10 years that the technology has been used by Australia Post. It's not very widespread, I hasten to add. But you mentioned being able to just print a label and do the same thing. Well, I think that that's something that you could easily see any postal operator adopt as long as you've got the right sort of technology in your network.
And Ian, and that's it, isn't it? It's the technology, because if you think about it, it's super inefficient to have, and from a customer perspective, because this is where Amazon is so good. I can't avoid talking about Amazon, at least every now and then. Amazon would have gone through that process and said, what does it mean for the customer? Let's just think it through. I want to send some. I go to vending machine number 1. I have to find the right one. Okay, great. I can see it. So I choose the one I want. I have to find this finicky thing where I press the right code, pay my money to get the envelope. I then have my envelope. I then then have to go somewhere else. Probably I have to scan it. I probably have to put in data where that envelope's going to go in another machine, probably with another interface, hopefully one machine. And if I'm lucky, I press a button and it's gone.
So, and this is where, and I'll put a link to our video that we did with the Austrian Post concept post offices. They had those single terminals, I suppose, where you could lodge a return or post a parcel and things like that. And that's more recent technology. And you saw that as we went through the door, the first thing you saw was this, like, it looked like an ATM, that's sort of like a postal self-service machine where I think you can pay bills and lodge items. There's sort of a couple of bits of technology bolted together there that if you were doing it fresh today, you probably wouldn't do that.
Well, let me do a plug for Lockerland, because Oz is not quite yet Lockerland. Although, by the way, I'm really impressed with where it's going. But in Lockerland, I'll tell you how it works. At home, I want to send something to you. I click. I either get a barcode if I want it, or I get a number, or if I don't want any of those, I get a locker cell that I go to without anything. So I have a blank envelope, I put it into the locker cell, and the courier, because of the cell that the parcel's in, knows what details to add, and then a label is put on the parcel. Now that is really customer centric.
So you need to have a dense locker network to be able to do that.
But in the case...
For it to be convenient for the consumer to use that, doesn't it?
Slipper distance, Ian. Slipper distance.
Slipper distance. Thank you, B-Post. Now, we're going to have a look at another video now. This is on a parcel locker installation outdoors. So it's in the street. You can see here, it's at the bottom of a residential building. There is a sort of like a small food court and supermarket and all these kinds of shops nearby. And you can see here, it's a decent-sized parcel locker installation. Oh, look at this expert camera work, Marek. I'm zooming in, but you can see it's a traditional parcel locker with a screen on it and accessible 24 hours a day. Couple of, as I said, multi-story apartment buildings nearby. You might have noticed that there are no customers in these videos, but as I said, it was early on a Saturday morning, so I don't know how many people are, really up and about at that hour of the day looking at parcel lockers, apart from me, obviously. But Marek, there is something I wanted to mention about this particular parcel locker installation, and that is when we're talking about low-tech meets high-tech. There is an older low-tech solution here. So have a look at this video here. You see this is all the regular-looking lockers, and then as we pan across, there's the post office boxes, a much smaller installation of post office boxes there. But then at the end, we've got these red doors. Now, those red doors that you can see there, they've each got a key lock attached to it. A key lock, you know what I mean. What happens is if you've got a parcel if you have a PO box, a post office box, and there's a parcel ready for you, and it won't fit in the little box. Those boxes are about this big, right? So they're big enough for a letter, and not many parcels fit into that. Australia Post will put a key in there with a number on it, and that correlates to these little lockers here, right? So you have to manually go, take out your key, the key that you've been given, open the door, take out your parcel, and then deposit. So these little slots there where you deposit the key. So it's reliant a little bit on the customer being trustworthy enough to return the key. But when this solution was introduced, Marek, this solution was introduced in about 2009, 2010, thereabouts, before Australia Post had more than a dozen parcel lockers, because they just needed to be able to develop capacity quickly. So Australia Post developed this very simple analog solution to being able to distribute parcels quickly. Now, you're not going to see many of these around the place in Australia, but I thought it was an interesting way. Like, it was just Australia Post having to find a way quickly to do it and to be able to distribute parcels either at a post office or at a post office box bank like this out in the street. What do you reckon, Mark?
You're not going to be surprised to hear this. I don't particularly like analog solutions, because keys get lost, keys get damaged. People don't do what they ought to do, and it's inefficient. Because if you think about it from a customer perspective, it's a little bit naff, isn't it? You go to locker number one.
It is now.
You get your key. Yeah. You then go to locker. It's like sort of, what's that game called when you've got lots of parcels one inside another? Kids play it.
Oh, pass the parcel.
Pass the parcel.
I don't know about that.
It's Pass the Parcel by Oz Post.
Well, perhaps, but remembering that Australia Post needed to develop a solution quickly, that is what was developed. Now the regular, the electronic, the APMs, as you like to call them, Marek, next door, those doors can now, if I understand correctly, can be used for post office box parcels. So now, going forward, that old analog solution wouldn't still be used. But it's a little bit of a throwback to having to find a solution quickly. So anyway, that's just
But
another
Ian,
example.
I think that the interesting thing is, first of all, at the time, it was pretty smart because, and this is where I would say it was at the time customer centric because somebody thought, okay, how can we make it work? There wasn't any better alternative. Today, what would concern me, without knowing all the background and the facts, is that it's now 2022 and that solution is still being used. And that's what concerns me. So if I were to summarize from my side, first of all, I love this stuff and I don't want to be negative about everything because I think the direction is right. But I'm worried that the facility, which is designed to be 24/7 and to be available to people, either is not promoted in the right way or somehow is not fulfilling all of the expectations because it shouldn't be empty on a Saturday morning.
Oh, Marek, the whole city's empty on a Saturday morning. You could have shot a cannon down that street and not hit a soul. Right? The city doesn't get going till after 10 o'clock, this is Melbourne, so people probably need to have a few flat whites to fire themselves up
after the night before, because it was a Friday night before. But Ian, I think something is wrong because people, not as many as during the day, but particularly with the postal facility where there were a lot of machines, it was a large facility. I was surprised that there wasn't at least one elderly person with their little dog.
Well, the other thing is that in that area, I'll be very surprised if there's any parcels collected before 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Very surprised. Because you're talking about, like, there's a big student population there and things like that. So when are they going to collect their parcels? After they wake up. And when do students get up? 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Right. So I think that has been borne in mind. Whereas if you went to a suburban shopping centre, it might be a very different situation. A suburban shopping centre with mums and dads and things like that, I reckon you see a different spread of when parcels are collected. Comment below, everybody. We're just spitballing this stuff. Comment below. Tell us what your experiences are in your network. Marek, one last locker for us to have a look at. And this one, it's a bit of a sad story, I think. This parcel locker, it's a nice looking parcel locker. I haven't counted up how many doors there are. This parcel locker has been in this position for a few years now. And this is the thing. Video was taken at lunchtime and there's not a soul nearby. It's because it's in a food court at the bottom of a big office building. That food court, you can imagine pre-COVID, was heaving with people, and there would always be somebody collecting their parcel or somebody loading the parcel lockers with parcels. I went in there a number of times over the course of a few days, that particular, and there was no one there. There were only 2 of the food stores open in the food court. There was nobody there. It was dead as a dodo. So a position that would have had a huge turnover 3 years ago, now, I can't even guess what kind of turnover of parcels they do there. Isn't this an interesting example, Marek, of how a location that was amazing now is not so amazing?
Yes. However, I am not a big fan of inside lockers. You remember when we do our workshop...
And this one's not accessible 24 hours a day, I might add. The doors are locked at a certain... Even though it says on the screen 24/7 parcel lockers. After a certain hour, that building has secure access, if I recall correctly.
Exactly.
But back then, it didn't matter, Marek, because the people who were using that were all based in that office building, and now they're all working from home.
Absolutely. And honestly, from my perspective, when we have our workshop on setting up Pudo and offer and locker networks, we always say prime location is close to the bedroom district. You cannot fail because most people do come home at some stage, day or night. And therefore, you can't fail. Whereas the more difficulty you have to access a locker, the less it will be used. Gated communities, by the way, that's another one that even though they are close to bedroom districts, it's a lot worse to have it behind a gate instead of having it in the wall so it's accessible both to the residents of the community and people around. So I would say access is a big deal. And the food court had 2 issues. One was that the location became less attractive, but one might question whether it was ever a super attractive or optimized location from the beginning.
It was. That was a hot location because all the people working in that building, working in IT, communications, they were big e-commerce users pre-pandemic. So you can only imagine if they'd all gone back to the office, what it would be like. But comment below, everybody. What do you think? I mean, what have you seen in your own network? Have you seen locations go from being stars to less than stellar, or other locations really boom, especially those, as Marek said, they're in the bedroom districts? Marek has also mentioned the Parcel Locker out-of-home workshop that we do. I'll stick a link down below if you want to know more about that. So just click on the link, fill out the form, and we'll get back to you and talk to you about running a workshop for your organisation, whether you're an e-commerce organisation, whether you're a carrier, whoever you are, you want to know more about setting up an out-of-home network. just let us know and we can run a workshop for you. Marek, a few comments then overall. I mean, these are just 3 examples. And apart from this rather lonely looking indoor parcel locker, the others were accessible 24 hours a day. It was a Saturday morning, so you can't expect people in Melbourne who might have had a big party night the night before to be out collecting parcels at 9:30 on a Saturday morning. It's just sad people like me that are out and about on a Saturday morning at 9:30. But it's interesting for me to see these different locations and the different styles of lockers. And even in that first location that we looked at, which is at Australia Post headquarters, there are 2 different models of parcel locker. I mean, that last one we looked at was an in-post parcel locker, by the way, the one that's inside the sad food court. So interesting, isn't it, Mark, to see a real-life network and how it's sort of been put together. It's like you can see like historical elements of the network, can't you?
Absolutely. I think it's really interesting. I think it's great that Australia Post is experimenting and learning. Lockers, without a doubt, are not just the future. Already they're important today. And more markets are realizing that. It's not just Lockerland. Germany is waking up to the need for more machines. France, the UK. Our new out-of-home report, which is about to be published, is going to show some quite dramatic developments in terms of locker and PUDO numbers. I think the only thing I would say is people get very excited about lockers because they're nice, techie things you can play with and they're new, and boys like toys and girls like toys, I think, as well. But with lockers, we shouldn't forget about the good old PUDO. They work together, they're complementary. And this is where I think Australia Post has a huge opportunity, given the network that they have in place, to try to leverage the ability to consolidate or to complement each other. And that's going to be really interesting. If they can do that and do one other thing, demonstrate, because we couldn't see that from these vids, demonstrate the software, which I think is much more important than the hardware, that the software is really great.
I've got a story about PUDOs, which we're going to have to share for another day because we've been talking for so long about PUDOs in Australia. However, we're going to wrap it up here. As we said before, if you want to comment below, let us know what you think. Let us know about your experiences in your network, locations that work well, locations that don't work well, ones that have gone from one side of the ledger to the other. What do you think of Australia Post's network? What do you reckon they could do better? Australia Post won't thank me saying that, but there you go. Thank you very much for watching this video on YouTube. Remember to subscribe. No, what is it? Like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell so that you get a notification, hence being called a notifications bell. You get a notification every time we publish a new video on our Last Mile Profits YouTube video channel. You subscribing helps us keep these videos free, and we love doing them. So please do subscribe, and we look forward to producing more content for you here on YouTube. Marek Różycki, thanks for being part of the Last Mile Profits today.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, everybody.